And our speaker today, Kiro Mishra, is the CEO of NTT Security Americas. Previously, Kiro served as the Managing Director of Security Service Business at NTT Data Services with global P&L responsibility. Over his 20-plus years of experience, Kiro has worked in multiple senior leadership positions in global technology companies and has successfully executed several organic and inorganic global growth initiatives. He also served as director on the board of Dell Business Process Services Limited. Kiro's presentation today is titled The New Science of Cyber Security. Please join me in welcoming Kiro Mishra.
Thank you, Corey. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this briefing. On behalf of all my NTT colleagues, I really appreciate you all taking time today and joining us for this briefing. Am I audible, or should I be louder? Okay, a little bit louder? Okay, good. So maybe before we delve into what we are going to talk about today from the new science of cybersecurity that Corey mentioned about, it might help if I provided a perspective on NTT in general, or the NTT group in general, and NTT security in particular. So as you might know, NTT Group is a global conglomerate with annual revenue of upward of $100 billion and globally employing around 275,000 people present over almost everywhere in the world. And predominant business area for NTT Group is around communications and information technology. And I'm sure you will not be surprised to know that 88% of top 100 customers of Fortune 500 are NTT customers today. NTT also spends $2 billion every year on R&D and innovation, where thousands of researchers are working across the world to create new solutions, new technology for our customers to be taking benefit from the changing business world. And again, by virtue of all that focus, NTT takes a pride of having 16,000 patents to its credit, and the number is just growing. And this kind of a growth and this kind of a scale has been achieved by a very well-architected, very well-orchestrated strategy, which is around both organic as well as inorganic. And while making this growth for the group, cybersecurity also has been looked at pretty closely. Over the last 8 to 10 years, I would say, NTT Group has acquired several cybersecurity-specific companies across Europe and US. And during the same time, many of the existing group companies of NTT were also nurturing cybersecurity competencies. So in August of 2016, almost 20 months back, we took a strategic decision of pulling all those cybersecurity competencies together, and that's how NTT Security was formed. So the brand NTT Security is not that old, maybe around 20, 21 months old, but the underneath business has been there for years together. We have been serving customers across industry verticals, across geographies for several years, and you can imagine the kind of experience that NTT Group and NTT Security in particular carries from all those engagements. With that background on NTT Group and NTT Security, maybe we can also quickly look into the changing world of cybersecurity and how we as a company, how as we as NTT Group in general, and how as NTT in security in particular, are embracing those changes and reorienting ourselves to be more relevant to our customers, to be more relevant to our employees. So if you look at last couple of years, there's a huge adoption and proliferation of digital technologies everywhere. And with that, a lot of existing large businesses have been decimated because they were not able to catch up to the changing dynamics. And there were several new models which have come up. And those models are essentially built on all new technologies around cloud, artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, and so on and so forth. With that new set of technologies, or digital technologies as we call, we definitely get a lot of business benefits. But at the same time, we are exposed to, as enterprises, or our end customers for that matter, are exposed to new kind of threats, new kind of cyber threats, new kind of threats arriving in many different ways and from many different places. And that way, if you look at the threat landscape itself, is becoming very complicated, and the threat actors, for that matter, are becoming more advanced, more mature. The way we look at a situation like that in a digitally transformed world, cybersecurity is extremely, I would say, distributed, yet hyper-connected. It's very, very tightly networked. And that throws up a lot of challenges for a lot of businesses, throws up a lot of challenges for providers like us as to how to stay relevant. And if you look at most of the enterprises today, and most of the enterprise risk managers are considering cybersecurity as one of the biggest threats for their business sustenance. And that's how cybersecurity is taking a center stage in all the board conversations, senior management conversations. When we looked within and we saw how we could reorient or re-strategize ourselves and our approach to basically stay relevant, we looked at basically 3 pillars of the new strategy, as we are calling. And in a digitally distributed, hyper-connected world, we think cybersecurity must be collaborative, cybersecurity must be adaptive, and cybersecurity must be comprehensive. And that's the reason we requested your presence today, to basically speak about this new initiative, which we call as the New Science of Cybersecurity. And that New Science of Cybersecurity initiative is essentially built on these 3 pillars, which is collaborative, adaptive, and comprehensive. So let's do a bit of deep dive into each of those. And let me try to explain to you what we mean by those 3 concepts. Coming to the first dimension of collaborative, we look at each of the elements, or rather I would say let's look at 3 elements under that. So it's basically how do we collaborate within entity group, how do we take leverage or how do we take advantage of the massive scale of entity group and the immense knowledge that is embedded in the group and create solutions to make our customers successful. Second element would be how do we collaborate with our industry peers to basically collaboratively bring services for customers. And third would be how do we collaborate with federal agencies to share our experience and expertise to make the nation safer, to safeguard a bit of more in some of the industries, and so on and so forth. So coming back to the first dimension, first element of collaborative dimension, which is about how do we leverage internally. When we formed NTT Security 20 months back, one of the key tenets of our strategy or key tenets of our business model was to move away from a direct sales model and basically leverage our operating companies within entity group, namely Dimension Data, Entity Data, and Entity Communications, to be our channel to the market. And by virtue of that, we had our specialized security sales team moving over to these businesses, and we started doing business through them. Maybe to set a perspective or give you guys a bit more understanding on the scale that we are talking about through these 3 operating companies, which is Dimension Data, Entity Data, and Entity Communications. Dimension Data is one of the leading technology services provider in the world who is accelerating clients' digital ambition by solutioning very innovative technology solutions and making them successful. They are present almost everywhere in the world. Entity Data is one of the top 10 largest IT services organizations serving myriad of customers across industry verticals and making their business successful by a very compelling proposition of infrastructure services, application services, and business process outsourcing. Entity Communications, many of you might know, is one of the largest communications companies in the world and has the best, or I would say the most next-gen infrastructure to handle all communication needs of today and the future, and can handle today 40% of global internet traffic through its network. So that's the scale we are talking about, these 3 operating companies. And between these 3 companies, if we look at, they are handling thousands of customers across the globe. You can imagine the kind of knowledge they carry, each of these companies carry, and collectively the kind of business priorities understanding, the business challenges understanding that these companies do, or these companies have. We being the central, I would say, center of excellence on security for all these three companies, we work very closely with these three operating companies, and we get to understand our end customers' business challenges and priorities from the lenses of our operating companies. And that's an immense input for us. And based on that input, when we design security solutions for our customers, we collaboratively, along with our opcos, create solutions which are very, very specific to that particular set of customers operating in that particular set of geography in that particular industry. So the solution becomes very, very relevant, very precise to the need, and not kind of a cookie-cutter solution that we are kind of slapping all over the world. So that's how we are developing, or that's how we are leveraging the knowledge that we have in the group. Coming over to the second element of our collaborative strategy is how do we collaborate with industry peers? Some of them are maybe competitors to us, but we still create value for our customers. You might have noticed yesterday we had the announcement on NTT security being a part of Cyber Threat Alliance. And as you might know, Cyber Threat Alliance is industry's first officially organized group of cybersecurity practitioners who collaborate with good faith to bring threat information and threat knowledge together. And based on that, they create solutions, or I would say based on that, they share that information amongst themselves to basically protect their end customers in a better way. NTT Security has joined that group, and by virtue of being a part of CTA, we would not only get a very good understanding, or I would say the enhanced understanding of threat landscape, we would also use that understanding to improve on our product and services so that we continue to stay more relevant to our customers. For your quick information, some of the other partners in CTA, which is Cyber Threat Alliances, are Cisco, Checkpoint, Symantec, RSAC Security, and all of it. So you can see all these companies coming together, pulling their brains together, and creating solutions for the industry in a much enriched and enhanced way so that end customers get benefited, and we are collaborating with them. Third element of our collaborative dimension is how we are collaborating with federal agencies. And specifically in the US, NTT Group has been collaborating with NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, as we commonly call as NIST. And we have been sharing our experience, sharing our understanding of the market, sharing our vision with NIST. And we are involved in drafting a new roadmap of improving cybersecurity in critical infrastructure in the country. And we can definitely organize a detailed discussion on that if you want, maybe later during the day or tomorrow. But that's how we would keep looking at areas where we could share our experiences, our knowledge, and basically influence or basically contribute and collaborate for betterment of a bigger picture. So that basically completes my first tower, which is collaborative tower. Now moving over to the second tower of our new science of cybersecurity, which we call as adaptive. Cybersecurity must be adaptive. And how, as a company or as a group, we are adapting to the changes around. So if you look at the current need of cybersecurity and the future need of cybersecurity, we have to always keep an eye and adapt to the changes. And by virtue of the $2 billion investment that I spoke about in R&D by NTT Group, we have a dedicated group who is doing R&D and innovation on security. And we call that group a Secure Platform Lab. And they are working on several futuristic security innovation, which we could commercialize and we could take to the market. Again, we could have a detailed discussion on that if time permitting later. But just to give you a sense on some of the initiatives that we are working on as a part of that group is, and again, all of those would be on those new technology that I spoke about earlier. From an IoT security perspective, we are working on a microservice infrastructure, a microservice trust infrastructure, where we are creating a centralized platform where we could bring millions of IoT devices onto the platform and create an orchestration so that all these devices could be managed centrally. And that will essentially also lead to the ever-cried problem of how do we manage security, embedded security in IoT. And by that platform, you can easily orchestrate security on those devices, and you can also give that freedom to application developers on IoT to be more innovative on creating features on IoT devices rather than being worried about the security. Other example that I could think of is about the big data security that the team is working on. The proprietary technology or proprietary method that this team has is called SANSHI, which is essentially a multi-party secret computing technology where we look at analyzing the information out of big data without decrypting them, right? So basically you are taking the information out without even unlocking the data, and that talks about the kind of way we could derive information and intelligence from big data without putting it at risk. So that's the first part. A second part of adaptive strategy would be, I would say, how we are collaborating with some of our large technology vendors to combine our forces or to join our forces and create something for our customers which would be more beneficial to them. A case in point would be our recent announcement, I think that went out last week, about our intention to do a strategic partnership with Symantec. And thereby we are bringing Symantec's cloud-delivered web security services and CASB solutions, which is Cloud Access Security Broker, together with our advanced analytics and threat detection platform to create a more comprehensive web security services, which could be rendered over cloud platform, mobile platform, and on-prem. So that is something which should probably differentiate the way we address that set of market and web application security market, which is, again, becoming very, very distributed. And the business models that I spoke about, you can see the proliferation of those applications everywhere. And that's where we will be able to take those solutions to make those businesses more secure at an application level. So that is my adaptive explanation in terms of what we are doing. Now that brings me to the third tower, which is comprehensive. If you look at cybersecurity industry today, and if we just walk around the floor in RSA, you can see hundreds of security companies of various scales and sizes talking about what they bring to the table. But to the best of what we have analyzed, most of these companies are looking at only a particular problem or a point solutions in the security threat landscape that they're planning to solve, which is one way good because they're focused. But if you look at what customers are looking for today is more of a well-orchestrated solution for security so that the business develop the resilience that they need. And that's where we, as a group, come into play, where we bring a very, very vast expanse of security competencies, starting from security consulting to systems integration to 24/7 managed security services. And on top of that, working with various technology providers to figure out what new and contemporary solutions that we could get to the customer base. Again, if you look at while we do all these services and while we provide this whole range of services, we also are continuously looking at, I would say, huge set of data, threat data, to cite. Annually, we look at almost 3.5 trillion logs collected over 10 security operations centers globally, and we analyze those data. And we also leverage the 7 R&D centers that we have globally to figure more information out of that. In addition to that, the tons and millions and billions of data that we get from 700 plus sensors deployed across 23, 24 countries around the world about various threat behavior and threat situation. We put all that together and we create threat intelligence for our customers who they could benefit. So if you look at our threat model today, all this threat data is fed into our advanced analytics and machine learning models. And on top of that, we run an orchestration layer so that we could drive automation and optimization. And based on this whole ecosystem, we make a holistic access, we provide holistic access control to the data and information and a need-based delivery of this threat information. So this whole ecosystem is basically taking input of threat data and creating actionable insights for our customers. And if we look at how do we package those information, package those intelligence for the benefit of customers, for the benefit of practitioners in the industry, every month we produce a threat report which talks about the changing dynamics of all this threat data, threat intel that we receive. And every year we come out with a more comprehensive threat report, which talks about the changing dynamics and where it is moving, what are the areas that we should be safeguarding against, and so on and so forth, and which is pretty highly regarded by our customers. They find it really useful. So we actually released it last week, and if you are interested, we can definitely make those copies available to you all. But again, circling back, that is how we are kind of looking at a comprehensive way of solving customers' cybersecurity challenges. As we move forward, we would continue to build on these three pillars of being collaborative, being adaptive, and being comprehensive. And when I am on the comprehensive point, maybe it's worth mentioning another thing which is happening and which we are seeing, and how we are going beyond the realm of IT security, and we are securing the convergence of IT and operational technology. So if you look at, especially in the areas of process control and automation systems, the need for security is beyond the IT security triads of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. One needs to look at how you can protect the convergence of IT and OT to make the operations more available, more safe for them to run. And that's where we have developed those solutions around IT and BT, IT and OT convergence, where we have competencies to do assessment, competencies to do program building, strategic program building, and also providing 24/7 managed security services. We are also looking at partnering with some of the leading platforms in the industry so that we continue to bring enhanced value in that, and a lot will be done as we move forward. So that basically is the comprehensive model. We are moving beyond IT, looking at adjacencies, looking at peripherals, and how we can secure a bigger business environment is something that we will continuously working on. So that's the explanation. If you have any further discussion, we can definitely have. We will probably open up for Q&A after some time. But if you go to our booth on the floor, and I think the number is 1315, if I got the number right, and we would be hosting several sessions around this. We would be happy to take you through more on each of these areas if you want. And I would welcome you all to engage with our subject matter experts in the booth to understand more on how we could add more value. We would be more than happy to take your views, take your inputs, because you all are also seeing a lot in the industry, and we will see how we could embed that into our plan as well. Thank you.